Chairman Sahab, can we start? Bhandarkar Sahab, can we start?
Please start.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. This is Sanjeev Mehra here, your compare for the day. And the topic is on marine operations. We're talking a lot on sea piracy, terrorism, and I can still see people joining in. So let's start the webinar. I would like to welcome Commander Dr. Bhaskar Bhandarkar. He's a former chairman, MRDB, Institution of Engineers, India, and also the Vice President of the Institute of Marine Engineers, India, to give us the welcome address and to talk on the theme of the webinar. Bhaskar sir, all yours.
Honorable Surendra Rai sir, the senior most mariner present in today's webinar. Our chief guest, Captain Anish Joseph ji, Senior Deputy Director General Shipping and expert on maritime security. Our chairman of Mumbai Institution of Marine Engineer, my friend David Birwatkar ji. Our distinguished head of IR Class Academy, Sri Amit Bhatnagar ji, my friend Engineer Sanjeev Mehra, and our dynamic Honorary Secretary, Engineer Milind Patil sir from Institution of Engineer. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this trend-setting webinar organized by Institution of Engineers in collaboration with our sister concerns organization, Institution of Marine Engineering Engineers, India, Institution of Naval Architectures, and American Nautical Association, India. The piracy, technology, and shipping lanes. These are the buzzwords today. We know 90% of the freight, 90% of the trade is carried out through the sea route. And there are important lanes, channels, which matter lost. And of the late, we have seen that there is a global concern. There is a huge thinking going on, and there are worries also. Institution of Engineers and Institute of Marine Engineers, it is our endeavor to enlighten our members, fellow society people, and the common citizen regarding the important issues being faced by maritime world today. For this, we have requested distinguished faculty who are the great name in their respective field. They will share their vision today, and I'm sure each one of us will be benefited by their presentation. To add, to top of the cake, we have Engineer Sri Surendra Rai sir, the most experienced mariner with a distinguished service in the Shipping Corporation of India, in Institution of Engineers and Institution of Marine Engineers. So I'm sure he will bring out the best part out of our faculty today. I wish all of you a good webinar. Thank you. Thank you indeed.
Thank you, Bhaskar sir. And now we would like to call the moderator, who's Mr. Surendra Rai. His brief bio for people who don't know him, which is very rare. Everyone knows Mr. Rai. He is the first graduate engineer from Rajasthan to join the Merchant Navy as a marine engineer. He joined and sailed the Shipping Corporation of India and was later absorbed in the management cadre and served as a general manager. Post superannuation, he served as a director technical at INSA, and he was assisting in planning and projecting Indian maritime policies, acts, and conventions with the government of India. He was chairman of the Institute of Marine Engineers, Mumbai, and also the chief editor of the monthly technical journal, MER. Over to you, Rai sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mehra, for the introduction, and thanks to Institute of Engineers and Institute of Engineers for organizing a very important seminar concerning a very challenging topic of the day. I am very happy to say that we have three very renowned speakers today to deal with the issues, and I'm very happy that each one of them is representing different sectors. We have Captain Anish Joseph from the government and administration. We have Mr. David Berwadkar from Ship Owners and Training Institutes. And we have Mr. Amit Bhatnagar, who is looking after rules, regulation, and inspection. I will give the brief introduction of each of them separately later on. But I will now start our this particular discussion on webinar by inviting Mr. Amit Bhatnagar. Actually, piracy has been one of the very hot topics, and it's not new. We have had issues from 1985, and it's almost 4 decades old. But in last about 2 decades, it has become very serious. And recently, there have been a lot of instances in the particularly Gulf and Aden and Somalia and all that. And I'm sure all the three speakers will name them. The IMO, the International Maritime Organization dealing with the safety and security and rules regulation, had come out with various options, and I know Mr. Amit Bhatnagar will lead them, that the ISPS code and even Suppression of Unlawful Activities Act, etc. So I will invite Mr. Amit Bhatnagar to give an introduction and give his presentation. He is Vice President and the head of the IR Class Academy with Indian Register Shipping. He is MTech in Naval Architecture. Institute of Engineers India also has recognized his contribution to the maritime industry and had presented him with Eminent Marine Engineers Award in 2014. I think most of the in the marine industry were not aware of this award, which was given to Mr. Amit Bhatnagar. He has also served as a Marine Engineering Division Board of IEI and was the last outgoing Vice President of Institute of Marine Engineers India. I'm also very happy to let the participants know that he has recently written two books as author, which are very helpful to the marine engineers in particular. So I will strongly advocate everyone to at least have a glance at them. He has been at the Visakhapatnam and Calcutta Marine Engineering Institute also as the president. So Mr. Amit Bhatnagar, you are welcome.
Thank you, Rai sir, for wonderful introduction. And at the outset, I would like to thank Institution of Engineers and Institute of Marine Engineers for providing me this platform to be able to share my views and little bit of knowledge which I have gathered in last 21 years of implementation of ISPS code. I would commence with a presentation. Is it?
Yeah, it's visible.
It,
Yeah, it's
it is
visible.
visible. Oh, thank you. So today's topic, sea piracy and terrorism, technology on maritime security and safe shipping lanes is the topic for the day. So I won't go back too much into the history, though piracy had been the one of the oldest professions, uh, which is as old as the seafaring. So here you can see a picture of a ship named Achille Laro. in 1985 on 7th of October. It was afternoon, 13:30 hours. Four terrorists from Abu Abbas terrorist group, which was part of Palestinian Liberation Front, which was actually headed by Yasser Arafat at that time. They boarded this ship at Port Said, and the plan was to actually hijack the ship once the ship was out at sea. However, uh, while they were preparing their weaponry to take over the ship in few hours time, accidentally the stewardess she opened the door of the cabin, and then they had no option. Soon after, it was soon after casting off from Port Said. The vessel was heading towards, I think, some Syrian port, and then what happened? They took over the vessel there and then for 2 days the negotiations they went on, and to create some amount of fear among the passengers, they threw overboard one elderly American gentleman uh, who was on wheelchair, and after 2 days of negotiations, the the ship was released, and hijackers were allowed a safe passage, though the prisoners were not released at that time. So, soon after that, uh, the matter was discussed at IMO, and IMO came out with a resolution A584 during the 14th session on 20th November 1985, which called for the development of the measures to prevent unlawful acts which threatens the safety of the ship and security of passengers and crew. So this was the first uh, objective requirement which was pressed by IMO to deal with such incidents, terrorist incidents on board ship. So this suppression of unlawful acts against the safety of maritime navigation SUA Convention, which was adopted on 10th March 1988, and the time was allowed to be entered into the force on 1st March 1992, and then there had been two protocols which were adopted. One was on 14th of October 2005, and the other one was 28th July 2010. So what does SUA Convention talks about? SUA Convention talks about, it defines unlawful activities in maritime field. The outline responsibilities of flag state in dealing with persons identified with unlawful activities. It encourages flag states to exchange information related to unlawful activities. So, any person commits an offense if the person unlawfully and intentionally seizes or exercises control over a ship by force, threat, or any form of intimidation, performs an act of violence likely to endanger safe navigation of a ship, or destroys a ship or damages a ship or its cargo, which is likely to endanger safe navigation of a ship. Places on a ship a device likely to destroy that ship, endangering safe navigation of the ship, destroys or seriously damages maritime navigation facilities, endangering safe navigation of the ship, communicates false information which is likely to endanger safe navigation of a ship, injures or kills any person committing or attempting to commit any of the above offenses. So this was addressed in SUA Convention, which was initially adopted. Then came 2005 protocol, which added a new article which said a person commits an offense if a person unlawfully and intentionally, when the purpose of the act by its nature or context is to intimidate a population or to compel a government or an international organization to do or to abstain from any act, uses against on a ship or discharging from a ship any explosive, radioactive material or biological, chemical or nuclear weapon in a manner that causes or likely to cause death or serious injury or damage. Further states, discharges from a ship, oil, liquefied natural gas or other hazardous or noxious substance in such a quantity or concentration that causes or likely to cause death or serious injury or damage. Uses a ship in manner that causes death or injury, death or serious injury or damage. It further states, transports on board a ship any explosive or radioactive material knowing that it is intended to be used to cause or to cause threat or serious injury or damage for the purpose of intimidating a population or compelling a government or an international organization to do or to abstain from doing an act, transports on board a ship a BCN weapon, that is biological, chemical or nuclear weapon, knowing this to be a BCN weapon. So this continued for a while, and then most of you must have seen this picture over and again. So this was, the responsibilities which was given to the SUA Convention, which was the responsibility given to the governments to take care of the terrorist threat, but there was nothing in terms of prescriptive to the maritime industry to be followed. So then happened this 9/11, and soon after that, on 28th September 2001, UN Security Council, they adopted a resolution 1373, which talks about requiring states to take measures to prevent and suppress terrorist acts, calling on states to implement fully anti-terrorist conventions with respect to Resolution 1269 of 1999 and Resolution 1368 of 2001, and calls on international community to redouble their efforts to prevent and suppress terrorist acts by increased cooperation, full implementation of relevant international anti-terrorist conventions. So this is how the stage was set, and then ISPS code, which was brought in. Now, why this ISPS code is important, I will come to that. So, International Ship and Port Facility, that is not port, it is port facility. I will talk about this. This is an amendment to the Safety of Life at Sea, that is SOLAS Convention, on a minimum security arrangement for ships, ports, and government agencies. So far, whatever we have heard, that was limited to the governments to follow. By bringing something in the purview of SOLAS, it was brought out that the industry needs to comply because SOLAS is mandatory for all ships. So now when it became mandatory for ships, for the first time, an international convention which was made mandatory for the ports also. But ports was actually related through the ships. So that is why there is the word says not port, it says port facility. So port facility was the interface between the ship and the port only, not the entire port area which we see all across. So this uh, ISPS code was brought into force on 1st July 2004, which talks about the responsibility to the government, shipping company, shipboard personnel, port facility personnel, which is limited to detect security threat and take preventive measures against the security incidents affecting the ship or port facility, which are used in international trade. So it was limited to detection and deterrence by taking preventive measures, because the seafarers or the shipping companies or the people in the port, they are all civilians, they are not military personnel. So their responsibility through this code was limited with respect to detection and deterrence only. The response to such situation was, and even now still remains, in the hand of the security agencies for different countries. So there had been few changes to the SOLAS convention, uh, where there was some amendments to Chapter 5, Regulation 19, Chapter 11, which was re-numbered as 11-1, and a new chapter was introduced to SOLAS as Chapter 11-2, and ISPS code, the book which I have just shown in the previous slide, it is in two parts, Part A and Part B. As a thumb rule, you can understand that Part A is mandatory, which has to be uh, complied with, and Part B is recommendatory. But Part A says what is to be done, and Part B talks about how it is to be done. We will discuss that. So what happened? Because ISPS code came in, certain requirements which were actually adopted by IMO to be complied with on later dates, they were actually preponed for implementation. So that is automatic identification system, which was to be installed on board ships. So you can see here the other cargo ships of 10,000 to 50,000 GT, and then the smaller ships later on. They were supposed to be fitting with AIS at the later dates, which was actually brought in earlier to be fitted on board by 1st July 2004. So, as I discussed, that the SOLAS chapter 11, it became 11-1. So, there had been few amendments which were brought in into that, that is with respect to Regulation 3, ship identification number, uh, that was to be marked permanently on board. Now, there is a background to this. Earlier, what used to happen, the ships used to be hijacked or shipjacked uh, at high seas, and then what used to happen, the hijackers, they used to repaint the ship with new name and some documentation they used to create, and the original ships used to become like a ghost. Nobody knew where the original ship had gone. And they used to, these people, they used to sell the cargo at some port. They used to sell the ship later on at some other port. And there were no traces available for such ships. So each ship from 1st July 2004 were asked to have a identification number, which is called as IMO number. You can see in the picture that IMO and then some 7-digit number is appearing there. So this was a unique number, irrespective of ships, change of flag, change of ownership, whatever happens, change of name, the number remains same for the ship for the entire life of the ship. So there were some minimum sizes which were given, that outside the ship it can be marked or rather welded to the structure or even punched. The size should not be less than 200 millimeters, and inside also the same number has to be uh, welded or punched, which could be either at the end of the transverse bulkhead or machinery spaces or hatchways or pump room. The size should not be less than 100 millimeter, though this size of this letter can be over and above these sizes, which could be, it should look good also. So as the other details of the ship is mentioned or painted, uh, this could be you know um, almost of the same size, but not less than 200 or 100 millimeters, that is outside and inside. Now, to further strengthen this um, this concept, uh, the ship has also been asked to have something like continuous synopsis record. So this as part of regulation 5, it talked about continuous synopsis record. This again from the date of implementation, that was on 1st July 2004, and this was to be issued by administration. So again, the ship may change the name, the ownership, the management, the classification society, anything and everything, every changes are to be recorded in this continuous synopsis record. And again, the identity of this continuous synopsis record was coming from the ship identification number or the IMO number. So one, you have IMO number, which is physically present, and whenever there is any changes, in case of change of flag, what used to happen, the old flag will close the account there. So they'll say the date on which uh, the ship ceased to register from my flag, that date will be put, and the new flag will issue from the next date. So the entire life of the ship, the entire life in continuation is available for the ship which were built on or before 2004. Then subsequently, further introduction of technology was brought in by having the long range identification and tracking system on board, which entered into force on 31st December 2008, which was applicable for all cargo ships of international voyages over 300 GRT, passenger ships and modus. Passenger ship, there is no size required as long as you have 12 passengers or more on board. The vessel is called as passenger ship, and then such ships need to have this LRIT and modus, of course, of 300 GRT and above. The concept is that wherever the vessel is operating across the globe, this information of ship's movement will be received by the data center. These data centers will be from various contracting government, and then you will have regional data center and then international data exchange, where the entire world LRIT data will be received. So today's challenge is what we are talking about. There's a word called piracy, and we have adopted everything and anything into the word piracy today. But it is not just limited to piracy. Piracy is the same act of armed robbery at high seas. That means a ship which is outside the 12 nautical mile of any country. If any robbery is taking place, that is termed as piracy. And if it is within the 12 nautical miles, this will be termed as the action has taken place on land. So that means armed robbery and piracy, they are same thing, but technically they are different because this is happening at high seas. Then I have just gone through few slides about various conventions which have been adopted by United Nations Security Council, and even when we are talking about various uh, maritime conventions, we have used the word terrorism again and again. However, there is no universal definition which is acceptable at international forums. However, just to understand, we can say terrorism in its broad sense is the use of intentional violence and fear to achieve political or ideological aims. The term is used in this regard primarily to the intentional violence during peacetime or in the context of war against non-combatants. That means against the common people, those who do not have means to fight back, or those who do not have means to respond to such situations. So this can be, divided, you can say, that is groups which are ideology based, that is ISIS or Al-Shabaab of Somalia. Then it can be state sponsored. I am limiting myself to the maritime action, that is Houthis, which we have been, which has been there in use for quite some time nowadays. Then shipjacking. Shipjacking actually had started, uh, especially uh, in the Gulf of Aden. That is to seize of possession or control of the ship from another person by force or threat of force, uh, which started somewhere around 2007-8, and it peaked till about 2012-13. So that can be through independent groups, that is Gulf of Aden. Gulf of Aden had been very complex situation where Somalia was declared as a failed state, and there was no government there. And conceptually, what has happened that uh, the fishing community in Somalia, they were opposing the international fishermen coming into Somalian waters and fishing there. And to counter that, they initially started uh, some armed conflict with the fishermen coming from outside. And when there were serious issues with respect to their own survival, uh, they started little more adventurous activities, and they started shipjacking in the nearby waters. And then later on, when it was at its peak, they have taken over the ships about 1,000 nautical miles from Somali land in Indian Ocean. And state action You have seen of late Iranian Republican, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. They have seized the ships, which I think my colleague Mr. David is going to discuss about. So now the threat has got new dimensions. Attacks, what we are seeing today, are politically motivated. The first time ever aerial attack, that is use of helicopter and drones were used. Uh, use of rockets and missiles was there. Uh, in the first quarter of 2024, there had been 33 attacks across the globe. And because the navies are actually trying to take care of the conflict in Red Seas, there is resurgence of shipjacking on the Somalian coast as also uh, seen where we had recorded 5 incidents in the first quarter. That means January to March. Though with the implementation of ISPS code, the number of incidents, if you see barring one odd year, they had been on the decline because the technology which has been used, the risk management practices which have been in use by the ships and shipping companies, they had been effective. However, now the challenges are different. So technology, we have discussed about automatic identification system that is within the VHF range. The details of a ship can be viewed by shore stations and the other ships. Ship security alert system is an automated system by, in case of any danger which is being faced by the ship. Uh, there are uh, something like manual call point for, fire, yeah, fire manual call points, something like that. It is at coveted place, one in the bridge of the ship and one in any other place which is decided by the company. And if you press it discreetly, there is no alarm on board, but the shipping company, they will receive it. In India, there is an additional measure which has been given by the government by running uh, a 24 by 7 communication center, which is called DG Center, where these alerts are received and necessary action is taken to deal with. Because it will give the location of the ship, it will give the direction of uh, course, speed, all the details will be given with the on the chart. It will be the location of the ship will be plotted. Then ship identification number, IMO number, I have just discussed. LRIT also, long range identification and tracking system. Then the concept of private maritime security companies, which has been allowed through IMO, which can be armed or unarmed. Unarmed, you must have already come across, not that much useful. However, armed, which can be useful, but there are a lot of complexities which are involved in that. There had been, first thing is not all governments, they are allowing personnel with arms to enter into their waters or in their land. So these armed guards, if they are there on board, they have to, deposit their arms to the local authorities till time the vessel is there in those waters or in the port. Then, in case an armed conflict happens between the shipjackers or the terrorists and the private security company, there are serious legal complications with respect to if there are any loss of lives or injuries. There had been a case in Cochin whereby on a vessel which was uh, actually there were two naval commandos from French Navy. They were on board. They were serving naval personnel and uh, accidentally they fired upon a fishing boat, uh, thinking that this was a pirate boat, and there were some casualties there. And then these people were arrested in India, and they were tried, they were convicted, and they had to spend time in jail. So, a lot of complications are involved if you have an armed PMSC on board. Uh, Presently, what is functioning or working is naval convoys. Naval convoy means the time for a particular naval convoy is communicated to the shipping companies, and from point A to point B, uh, the naval vessels, they will take these vessels, 10, 15, 12 vessels. They will go in under the protection of the Navy. Indian ships are also operating. Uh, that is how uh, the ships are being, keeping the safe lanes when they are operating in particular water, especially in Gulf of Aden. So I would like to conclude with the statement that the maritime industry is facing challenging time on security front. India, being one of the largest seafarer suppliers, holds a larger stake in the efforts to safeguard the shipping lanes. Indian Navy has been actively involved in ensuring the safe passage to the ships Gulf of Aden, irrespective of the flag and the nationality of the. You must have uh, read a lot of such news or even seen the TV channels. However, seizure of the ship by the state is a much larger challenge. It needs to be appropriately handled at diplomatic forums, like the recent incident which we had, and this girl cadet, which has been released by Iranian authorities through the diplomatic efforts by the government of India. All technological and procedural means are limited to mitigate surface threats. Aerial threats are to be dealt with. So, as far as aerial threats are there, as long as the port is controlled by the government, or the port has got authority from the government, it's only in the port we have got this concept of drone jammers. Uh, Drone jammers are not very expensive items. However, if you try to fit these drone jammers on board ship, uh, it is not a legal requirement, a legal system in many of the countries. So those challenges are still there, probably over a period of time with deliberations at IMO. I am sure we will be able to deal with such situations also. With this, I conclude my presentation. Thanks for patient hearing.
Mr.
All
Amit,
yours, sir.
thank you so much. You gave a very good account of piracy and terrorism, almost from over 4 decades. But admittedly, in last few years, it is on the increase, and somehow we'll have to find more tactics or what technology we have with us to counter that. As you rightly mentioned, recent attacks have been with the helicopters and drones, etc., which is absolutely unheard of in good olden days. I will invite my next speaker, Mr. David Berwadkar. But before that, I want to make an announcement that the participants have any questions, please feel free to write on the chat box, and we'll take it at the end of our presentation by three speakers. So Mr. David is a mechanical engineer, and he did the maritime training in Majgam Dock, Bombay. Currently, he is advisor shipping in the Great Eastern Shipping Company, India's largest private sector shipping company. Since October 2021, he is heading Great Eastern Institute of Maritime Study, Lonavala, and he has vast shore experience in ship management, fleet personnel, new buildings, and procurement during his illustrious career. He is also a technical committee member of several classification societies, including in INSA, and was the convener of the last Inmarco 2022, the flagship event of Institute of Marine Engineers conducted every 4 years. He is currently the chairman of the Bombay branch of the Institute of Marine Engineers, India, Bombay. So David, please unmute yourself and welcome. And I request you, particularly since Mr. Amit has dealt with the history and background to the terrorism and piracy, if you highlight more about the impact it has caused, particularly on the operation and the trade in the global market, and particularly in the Indian scenario, though I have Captain Anish Joseph here, who will give us an update about what the administration, government India has done a commendable work in encountering the piracy and the terrorism what we had faced in the recent past. So David, please take over and particularly highlight the impact on the business and trade. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rai Sahab. I hope I'm loud and clear. So good evening, everyone. Good evening, Captain Joseph, Mr. S. M. Rai, Captain Bhandarkar, Commander Bhandarkar, Sanjeev Mehra, Anjan Dev, all dignitaries from Institute of Engineers, guests who are attending the webinar, warm welcome and good evening from me. Thank you so much to IEI for inviting me to speak. Of course, a very, very relevant topic, but we have to understand the situation of the ship owners and also the ship staff in the current scenario and what are the repercussions. So before I commence, we all know, in the past, we have seen several movies on pirates, and we have visualized the pirates in all fancy dresses with one eye covered, one eye damaged. They are hijacking a ship, they kill people, they have beautiful girls along with them. And, so that is the concept we used to have of pirates. And then, of course, we have seen a couple of serious movies like Captain Phillip. And recently I happened to see a OTT series on Disney Hotstar, Lutere. It's all talking about the Somali pirates and what they do to the ships. But now again, these were times when the individual ship was hijacked or whatever. They are escorted and they are taken to the safe place in their waters, and then they take some ransom in $1 million. Takes a few months to negotiate, etc., etc. And then mostly these are freed. Okay, there may have been some difficulties, some small casualties here and there, but okay, these are on small scale where individual ships and individual ship owners are targeted. But now in the current scenario, we have seen it taking a very whole new turn, where ships are directly attacked with missiles just because they have some connection with Israel or whatever in that sense. And so these ships are attacked. Ships are getting damaged, and not only that, we have had so many occasions now where the ships are boarded with choppers. The rebels are coming with huge guns on the ship and taking control of the ships and taking them into the waters, where the Houthis have taken a few ships in the Yemeni waters, and recently the Irani group, which took the MSC ship to their waters. So this is a whole new turn. I don't think we have ways and means to combat such intrusion on our merchant ships. We are there to carry cargo. We are an essential medium of carrying cargo. We almost carry 90% of the world's cargo. And if this shop stops, then the repercussions. So even if they are slowed down, also the repercussions are very heavy. So understanding that, I'm going to talk about what is What are the repercussions and what all the consequences Mr. Rai mentioned to concentrate on that aspect indeed. So let me just share my screen. Can it be seen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's basically the topic. What we have to understand is that the importance of the topic of sea piracy and terrorism cannot be overstated, or we have to understand that what are the repercussions, security, economic implications, and also national security concerns. Firstly, maritime security is paramount as it ensures the safety and security of sea routes, which are vital for trade and transportation. Any compromise in maritime security can lead to disruptions in shipping lanes, affecting the timely delivery of goods, energy resources, and other essential commodities. Secondly, the economic implications of piracy and terrorism are significant. These activities can disrupt maritime trade, leading to increased shipping costs, higher insurance premiums for ships and cargo, and potential loss of revenue for businesses and the government. Lastly, there are grave concerns about national securities and also with which are associated with maritime terrorism. Therefore, addressing the challenges posed by sea piracy and terrorism is crucial, not only for safeguarding economic interests, but also for ensuring national security and stability. Modern piracy and terrorism have transitioned from isolated acts of plunder to more organized and sophisticated criminal activities, often involving international networks and state-sponsored entities, which is what we have seen in the recent times. Today's pirates and terrorists employ advanced tactics, technology, and weaponry to carry out their operations, posing a greater threat to maritime security and stability. Moreover, acts of piracy and terrorism have increasingly become intertwined with political agenda, making them not just criminal acts, but also acts of political violence aimed at achieving specific objects or challenging state authority. We know the ship's board precautions or methodology was BMP4 earlier and then BMP5, which provided global counter-piracy guidance and other maritime security threats. But the difference in attack methods from other threats may require other forms of mitigation, as we have seen now. The consequence of not adopting effective security measures can be severe. Ship staff who are made hostages on board are frequently subjected to violence, ill treatment, and periods of captivity that can last for several years. Other attacks have demonstrated an intent to damage ships and endanger life. But unfortunately, after a revision in 2018, there has been not much upgradation in the stated guidelines of BMP5, while the pirates and other intending to attack ships are using more and more sophisticated methodology. What is the current situation? Since mid-November 2023, the shipping route through the Red Sea have been disrupted by a series of attacks on vessels by Yemen's Houthi movement. The Houthis have presented attack as a retaliation for Israel's military assault in Gaza. Carriers at the moment have cargo and ship at the top of their priorities. Their decision to divert vessels will have to come at a cost. Nearly, as you know, 15% of the world maritime traffic transits by the Suez Canal and then, of course, through the Red Sea. That is the shortest route between Europe and Asia. Traveling by the Cape of Good Hope would delay the trip by at least over a week or 10 days in some cases. The recent news reveals that US has formally announced a multinational security initiative known as Operation Prosperity Guardian. But the fruits in totality are yet to be seen. We are seeing still ships are being attacked and ships are being hijacked. Indian Navy fortunately has come to the aid of the merchant Navy ships, not only Indian flag, but other flags also, which were under attack or hijacked, which is really noteworthy and praiseworthy. Few of the recent incidents were the Indian Navy warship came to the aid of Malta vessel hijacked in Arabian Sea, MV Ruin, wherein the Indian Navy captured 35 Somali pirates. Indian Navy deployed INS Kolkata to rescue Barbados flagged merchant vessel MV True Confidence. INS Vishakhapatnam took the distress call of the merchant vessel Marlin Luanda after it reported a missile hit. The vessel had caught fire. The Indian Navy's role in combating sea piracy in merchant shipping is multifaceted, encompassing deterrence, surveillance, interdiction, and cooperation at both national and international levels. Their efforts contribute significantly to maintaining maritime security and ensuring the safe transit of goods and energy resources through critical shipping lanes. So that's why we have to appreciate the role of Indian Navy as compared to other navies, where they have come to the forefront and have been assisting ships in these critical areas and guiding them through or helping them in case they have been attacked by missiles. And I think kudos to Indian Navy and the Indian government for this initiative. Terrorism and maritime security are significant concerns, with various terrorist groups operating in the high-risk areas and posing threats to its coastal and maritime assets. Some local terrorist organizations have established links, that takes the much higher level of what you call at what level they can do it, because they have global terrorist network like Al Qaeda or ISIS, and they are benefiting from them by their funding, training, and their ideological support. Additionally, Indian terrorist groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, and Indian Mujahideen have also been actively involved in maritime activities, including the smuggling of arms and explosives, and these are all deterrents to the merchant navy. In terms of targets and modus operandi, terrorists may launch attacks on commercial ports and, more importantly, merchant ships with the aim of causing damage, disrupting trade, or seizing hostages. They often employ small boats for smuggling arms, explosives, and personnel, as well as for conducting covert operations and infiltrating coastal areas, making them difficult to detect or intercept. To counter these threats, the maritime industry has implemented various counterterrorism efforts, including intelligence gathering, coastal security enhancements, and interagency coordination. Intelligence collection and analysis of terrorist activities, networks, and intentions are crucial for preempting attacks and disrupting terrorist operations. Moreover, coordination between various agencies such as Navy, Coastal Guard, intelligence agencies, and local law enforcement is vital for implementing effective counterterrorism measures and ensuring maritime security in the region. The economic impact of sea piracy and maritime terrorism is significant, encompassing both direct and indirect costs that affect various sectors of economy. Direct losses are, which are there from pirate attacks, stolen cargo, ransom payments made to secure the release of the hijacked vessels or crew, and damage to the ship and equipment. But there are also immediate financial losses which can be substantial, impacting the profitability and operational efficiency of shipping companies and maritime industry. Indirectly, the economic repercussions extend to increased insurance premium for shipping companies due to the elevated risk which we have all encountered as shipping companies, as they are passing through these high risk areas. Moreover, the disruption of maritime trade routes can lead to loss of business opportunities, delayed deliveries, and increasing transport costs, further straining the financial health of businesses reliant on maritime transportation. Collectively, these economic impacts underscore the need for robust maritime security measures, effective countermeasures against piracy and terrorism, and proactive strategies to mitigate the financial losses and reputational damage associated with maritime industry. Furthermore, piracy and terrorism at sea can exacerbate existing maritime disputes and territorial claims, fueling terrorism and potential conflicts. Therefore, addressing piracy and maritime terrorism is not only essential for safeguarding national interests, but also for promoting regional cooperation, resolving maritime disputes peacefully, and maintaining stability in the waters. So what are the challenges and lessons learned? As I mentioned recently, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps seized a Nawa Shiva-bound MSC vessel with 17 Indian nationals on board just because it had linked with Israel. So, I mean, it was managed by MSC, it was owned by Zodiac. This and many other similar incidents highlight the sheer helplessness of such situation, as it gets difficult to prevent such incidents, and moreover, the rescue becomes highly important due to involvement of lives at risk. Like we have seen in this case, the foreign ministry had got involved. They spoke to Iranian counterpart. We saw the photo of the cadet who was first released from the ship, as shown by Amit. And now I think they are in the process of releasing the other Indian nationals on board. But is that the end of it? I mean, the ship is still there. Obviously, it is a loss, and the losses to the maritime industry. From these challenges, several lessons have been gleaned to enhance maritime security posture. One of the foremost lessons is the critical importance of intelligence sharing amongst various agencies and international partners. Timely and accurate intelligence can significantly improve the effectiveness of maritime patrols and operations, enabling security forces to anticipate threats and respond swiftly. Additionally, investing in advanced technology and equipment which is crucial to augment the surveillance, detection, and response capabilities of security forces. Continuous training and capacity building programs for security personnel are essential to keep them abreast of evolving threats and equip them with the necessary skills and knowledge to tackle maritime challenges effectively. Lastly, fostering public awareness and cooperation is vital to create a diligent maritime community that can assist security forces by reporting suspicious activities and adhering to maritime regulations. So what's the future outlook? Another area to look at is the increasing role of non-state actors in maritime threats. Unlike traditional pirates and terrorists affiliated with established organizations, these non-state actors provide or act independently as pirates for hire or freelance terrorists, often outside the control and influence of the traditional terrorist organization. Their motivation may vary, ranging from financial gain to ideological extremism, making them unpredictable and challenging to counter. The risk of these non-state actors adds complexity to maritime security efforts, requiring adaptive strategies, intelligence-driven approaches, and international cooperation to address the evolving nature of maritime threats effectively. Strategies for the future of maritime security encompass a multifaceted approach that includes enhancing naval capabilities, strengthening international cooperation. These assets will not only enhance the maritime domain awareness, but also improve the ability to respond swiftly and effectively to maritime threats, ensuring the safety and security of its territorial water. Furthermore, I think personally, investing in technology is crucial to modernize and augment the maritime surveillance and intelligence capabilities, because I don't think this is going to end. This is only going to increase with days to come, because these are the soft targets. The ships, maritime ships flying abroad or in waters are soft targets. So anybody having vested interest are going to target them and try to gain whatever they have to gain from by threatening the hapless ship staff and the ships. Finally, in conclusion, the transition from the 20th to the 21st century brought gigantic technological changes in the form of the IT revolution. Many analysts predicted that the new era would result in the extinction of piracy at sea, but sadly they were wrong. Maritime piracy not only did not disappear, but also unfortunately intensified in the first 2 decades of the new millennium. Moreover, new technologies have helped pirates to adapt to the times and modernize their attacks. Despite the shortcomings, private companies represent an effective means of combating piracy recommended by the IMO and insurance companies. Ship owners, cargo owners, and some states, it goes without saying that the fight against pirates is a lucrative business for private maritime security companies with large sums of money and profits. To be effective in making the global shipping business safer and cheaper inside territorial waters of independent nations and in the open sea, cooperation is essential. Collaboration on technical solutions require new approaches to contracting mechanisms and protection of intellectual property. And I would say, in conclusion, that looking at the recent cases and acts of terrorism, the root cause and underlying factors that fuel maritime piracy and how they can be effectively addressed to prevent it in the long term is a question mark. Also, is there anything more we can do to prevent hijacking the merchant navy ships by pirates? And I would define the pirates and not by pirates per se, pirates who are there like the submarine pirates, but I'm talking about more of the ones relevant to the Yemeni, Houthis, or the Iranian, or maybe tomorrow we'll have some more coming up because they see the success of such attacks and such sieges of ships. And as I mentioned, the ship staff can't do anything about it because somebody comes on a chopper on a ship, they can combat them because we told them about using water hose and this and that, go in the citadel. Somebody's come with guns and arms from a chopper on the ship, nobody can stop them. And that probably is something which on a world scale we'll have to deal with. And we hope that maybe Captain Joseph will have some answers for us in that aspect, because at the moment we are all in a fix as ship owners, ship operators, ship staff, and everybody's scared to transit those areas at this moment. We do it for the larger picture as maritime trading, essential goods have to be delivered from port A to port B. And so the business goes on. Shipping has always been running 24/7 so that we all survive. As somebody intelligent had said that if there was no shipping, one half of the world would starve and other half would freeze. So shipping is required. We all need to be together to look at solutions, to look at this new threat to shipping, and the sooner the better, I would say. So thank you so much and have a nice evening.
Good.
Right,
Thank you
Amanda.
so much for a very nice presentation. As always, I must admit that recent instances of piracy and terrorism have really created a lot of impact on the maritime industry and particularly the transportation of trade by shipping. And we have a very senior other person to speak today with us from government and administration. I will invite him later on. But I'm particularly want to focus about what you said. Ki it is basically the ship and the ship staff is helpless and they have no sources to counter this. So this is a really big challenge today. I'm also told that many of the ship owners have now avoiding the route going by Gulf of Aden, and it is costing extra not only time but cost of money as well. So these are very big challenges which are lying in the front of the shipping industry. And I request Captain Anish Joseph to join us later. He is representing Indian administration and spokesperson for Indian government as well. And I'm very happy that Indian Directorate General of Shipping in the last few months have taken some very bold advisably decisions, and they have come out with new guidelines and not many circulars recent past that how we can encounter this. I also appreciate the relations that the merchant navy is developing with the navy as well, and Indian Navy in particular, and the rescue boat they are coming to us. So Captain Anish Joseph, please join.
Good evening.
Captain Joseph is a Deputy Nautical Advisor come Senior Deputy Director General of Shipping Technical, and particularly looks after maritime security and related issues at the Directorate. He is holding Masters of Science in Maritime Affairs, which he graduated with distinction from the prestigious World Maritime University, Malmö, Sweden. He's also done his MICS from United Kingdom. He is a recipient of the prestigious Kalmar Prize awarded by WMU on behalf of Kalmar Global to those who are recognized as leaders among their peers. So, Captain Joseph, with your recent knowledge about piracy and terrorism, particularly concerning on the Indian ships and related issues, and as I said, what are the challenges, what you see, and what are the solutions to it, and what precautions we should be taking since we have adequate technology to counteract the attacks by the pirates, etc. Captain Joseph, please.
Thank you. First of all, let me thank Institute of Engineers and the other organizers for inviting me and to have a webinar on such a relevant topic affecting not only shipping, but because 90% of the world trade by volume and 80% by value is being shipped on merchant ships. Most of the things which we use in our daily life is at one time or the other being part of a ship's voyage. So it's very relevant to people who are not directly linked to shipping. So having a webinar on this subject on maritime security, on use of technologies, how to counter, it's a very relevant topic. And thank you for inviting me as one of the speakers. I will briefly go through a presentation which I have done, which I'll just want to highlight with a specific focus on what's happening currently. And while during the presentation, I will also touch upon a few aspects what the earlier speakers have touched upon, bringing in the maritime administration's perspective. At the same time, I will, in the end, sum it up and try and discuss on the way forward. I'll be just sharing my screen and showing the presentation. So I hope you can see the presentation.
Yes.
So my presentation, I will rush through. My focus will be on the current crisis, very specifically on the maritime security issues which are affecting merchant shipping and with specific focus in the region. What are the efforts of other Indian governments? Finally, summing it up with our thoughts. So coming to the timeline of events, it was also touched upon by the earlier speakers, but I just to give it in perspective. The first aspect was the Israel-Hamas conflict, followed by its effect on the shipping by way of hijacking of the Galaxy Leader. Unfortunately, the vessel is currently still in the clutch of those rebels, and the seafarers and the ship has not yet been released. The date was 19th November. Subsequently, there was a decision made by merchant shipping where they decided to try to use the alternate route, avoid the Red Sea area, avoid the Suez Canal, go around the Cape of Good Hope. Many ships have followed this. Definitely ships which are having connections with the Israel, they have followed suit. Subsequently, towards end December, the coalition naval forces formed a coalition unit there of the naval vessels, navies, foreign navies. The name of this is called Operation Prosperity Guardian. This is very focusedly located in the Red Sea area, and Indian Navy is not a part of this. Indian Navy is doing an independent deployment, and not most they are spread out in the Gulf of Aden, Gulf of Oman, Arabian Sea region. Subsequently, 4th of February, we had an escalation where earlier the targeting was on vessels which are having Israeli links. However, because US and British forces launched a series of attacks on Houthi targets, subsequently shipping which were having US and British connect also started getting affected. So the latest, all of you must be aware of the MSC incident, wherein there is, because of the conflict between Iran and Israel, we have this vessel which is now in Iranian waters. However, I have not very specifically shown it here because it is not exactly a security kind of a conflict. As per our understanding, it's more of a diplomatic nature because there has not been any attack on shipping. They have taken this vessel, which was also happening in the past because of the US sanctions on Iran. There have been instances where US has targeted vessels with Iranian connections. Similarly, Iran has targeted vessels with US or UK connections. So this is in an extension where now they have targeted a vessel which has got an Israeli connection. Incidentally, all Indian seafarers are on board that vessel. We have been able to reach out to the seafarers, and they have given consular access. The seafarers are fine. I will not be discussing too much into that aspect because it's not per se exactly as a security threat. Coming to the next part of the presentation, briefly run through what has happened with respect to the maritime security, what do you call, landscape within the government of India, within the maritime administration. Security per se, huge focus was on piracy, and the piracy focus especially took off after 2007, 2008, when piracy of the coast of Somalia, it took a big toll on merchant shipping. Now, one of the reasons why it happened, why piracy started getting more stronger was because of so the traditionally what Somalia was going through. Somalia was going through a scenario where the governance was not very strong. Economically also they were not doing well. The biggest hit they took was of something called IUU fishing, which is unregulated fishing, where the livelihoods of the Somalian fishermen were also being taken over by foreign flag fishing vessels, which started fishing in their exclusive economic zone, due to which there was a loss of livelihood for the fishermen in that particular region. So what happened? We had instances where there was prolonged duration of captivity for these vessels. The pirates were very violent with the kidnapped seafarers. We formed something called the anti-piracy contingency plan, which is still in action. It's been revised subsequently. Focus at that time was Somalian piracy, and the piracy. This particular plan has got a series of measures which brings into force, and incidentally, with respect to you know Marlin, Luanda, with respect to ruin and all, these piracy plans have this contingency plan was also brought into effect. The nitty-gritty I'm not going to go, but at the same time, we have also come out. We also came out time to time with a series of circulars and advisories on what to do, how to do, the reporting points, the practices to be followed. And one of that is I would bring reference to the best management practices, which was developed by the Roundtable of Industry Body, which is currently at Best Management Practices BMP version 5. A brief update, like Mr. David had mentioned, that BMP 5 is still in force. However, it is currently being revised. BMP 5 will be later on replaced. I don't know what they are going to name it, whether it will be named as Best Management Practice or something different, because Best Management Practice, if you know, now exists in two parts. One is for the Somali region and one is for the Gulf of Guinea region. 2008 to 2011 was the peak. Slowly from 11 to 15, 16, 17, the piracy in Somalia dwindled down. And slowly press focus, the hotspot shifted from Somalia to the Gulf of Guinea. Uh, Again, let me just try and, try to bring another aspect into focus here. When we talk about piracy, we talk about best management practices, we talk about armed security guards, we talk about naval convoys, which was in force at that time, now naval intervention. But we must always remember these things are happening because of existing, what you can say, like issues or challenges which are located in the area of operation. A brief background about Somalia I gave. We had the similar kind of challenge in Gulf of Guinea, where again they thought this was a good modus operandi where they could take the seafarers, and they found that they were getting good amount of sum of money. But eventually how we tackled Somalian piracy was not through the best management practices or not through the armed security guards. They were in a large way a deterrent to the existing pirates who were there trying to take over the vessel. But what really helped in this particular thing is there were some bodies which were formed, which were tackling this menace diplomatically. They were engaging. They were not only engaging internationally, they were also engaging with the local government and the local people there. So one such group was called the Contact Group of Piracy of the Coast of Somalia, CGPCS. The CGPCS, they divided into working groups. Incidentally, India was also part of a working group, and also India was co-chair of one of the working groups on operations. The working group, there was a working group on operations, there was a legal working group, there was a working group on capacity building. Why capacity building is very important. Now, what was happening was piracy was not only a form of business, but it was also funding illegal activities, terrorism. So there were certain decisions done. There were certain funds established, capacity building measures also done to try and supplement. The fishermen had lost their livelihood. How to bring them back to their food? There were a lot of measures which were brought into the those aspects were also focused upon. So over a period of time, a combined effort which include the naval interventions, the funding of capacity building efforts. There was a funding established for the seafarers who were affected by this piracy incidents to bring them back to their feet. There were best management practices, armed security guards. All this combined to basically bring down the piracy. Then one aspect was these pirates were captured and they, in 2011, 10, 11, these pirates started coming very close to the coast of India. Indian Coast Guard, Navy, they combined, they captured, and then they took them to trial. The legal forum in the CGPCS, one of their, mandates were, because this kind of, in India, there was no act to per se prosecute pirates. And at that time, they what had happened was these pirates who were caught, they were prosecuted under the IPC. Now, again, one of the initiatives in that was due to which what has happened is we have developed something called the Maritime Anti-Piracy Act. The act allows us to prosecute the pirates. Now, recently the Navy captured the pirates. We can prosecute them as per the act. Earlier, they were prosecuted under the IPC, which does not have a per se definition of piracy and does not give the kind of seriousness it deserves. So what happened was they were there in the Yellow Gate police station. They were jailed. Eventually they themselves admitted to a crime. They were prosecuted under IPC, which gave them a maximum sentence of 7 to 8 years. And then they were released somewhere around 2-3 years back. And they went back to Somalia. So, what has happened is over a period of time, these action groups have again become active. That is why, again, this piracy slowly started coming into prominence in this Somalian region. We had these advisories, which I have shown in this particular slide. Moving ahead, what we also did was when the focus shifted to Gulf of Guinea, we brought in some additional advisory circulars measures to ensure that that areas were taken care of. One major thing which this government did was we were having a lot of issues where the substandard ships were operating within the Gulf of Guinea, registered with some of the flags of convenience, and they were trading within the Gulf of Guinea, and they were being targeted. And these vessels we did not have proper response mechanism. They didn't have arm. Of course, inside territorial waters, armed guards are not allowed. And also, there was one other issue which was being faced was these vessels, the owners did not take K&R policy. So the release for these seafarers were very long and protracted processes which we had to go through. So then we came with a circular where we prevented seafarers, which is the particularly 2019 DJ Circle number 3, where RPS agencies are restricted from engaging Indian seafarers on vessels within the Gulf of Guinea. So there were lot of measures which are done. I'm not going to go through each and everything in detail, but there were continuously efforts being done from the government side. One particular one which I have highlighted here is in 2023, where we as a proactive measure, we realized that now focus will slowly shift from piracy. There are other issues. There are other illicit maritime activities due to which the branch which was called the Piracy Anti-Piracy branch need to be modified, need to be reborn as something different, which is now which is called the Maritime Security Branch. So why this DGS order we got in the January 2023, the Anti-Piracy branch which got modified into the Maritime Security Branch. Maritime security per se, what was the focus areas? Focus areas were terrorism, human trafficking, contraband smuggling, IUU fishing. So it was a huge piracy was also one part of it. A lot of things which came into the domain, and these are issues which are now slowly, if you note, is taking more and more prominence. One big challenge which merchant shipping has is they are very soft targets. So they always are at the receiving end. Now, specifically, what happened with the timeline in the Red Sea, Gulf of Aden, the Arabian Sea, the Western Indian Ocean region. The timeline which I earlier spoke about, what we did was we brought in a focused look. We brought in more naval vessels. The naval vessels were, they are also supplemented by aerial support. We brought in certain advisories, which is going to come into the next slide. We also had series of stakeholder consultations to try and bring the focus on this particular thing and the measures to tackle this up. Specifically, these three circulars I would like to talk about. When we came out with the first circular, which was December, first week December, that time the focus was not on Red Sea area. The focus was not on Red Sea because this kind of attack was not yet started. The drone attacks on merchant vessels. There, the bigger concerns were in the incidents which were happening in the Straits of Malacca and Singapore. We had a specific incident where one of the masters, he was, at the time of an armed robbery incident, he was injured, he was stabbed, he had to take an issue. Subsequently, there was a huge escalation. We had multiple incidents, whereas drones and projectiles being, focused, targeted on vessels. Now, incidentally, what you must understand is these are not random attacks. These are very focused attacks because these attacks were on vessels which had Israeli connections. Okay, so that is, one of the high risk aspect when you do the risk assessment on vessels which are traveling these strategic routes. Now that risk assessment, it's slightly escalated because now they are also started targeting on the US and UK vessels. So what we did with it, we came ahead with an SOP where we had a focused approach. We focused on vessels which were trading in this region, and you must specially appreciate that we have not been very specific. We have had focus not only for Indian seafarers, Indian vessels, Indian flag vessels, or Indian cargo, but the Navy, the government of India, they have also assisted any vessel, any flag, any nationality, when they have been affected by such a security incident. I will not go into specifics, but I would like to sum up by stating that what we have done is now we have come up with a communication and reporting protocol, the latest circular, which was this month 10th, we have issued. We brought in an introduction of an online reporting system. Any vessel, it doesn't have to be an Indian flag vessel, can report. And by reporting, what happens is it goes straight to the Navy's mapping. Those vessels are specifically given focused outlook. And as you are aware, there have been multiple incidents. Navy has intervened. And these vessels are having a much more focused approach when such incidents are happening. So in conclusion, I will briefly reach out to the earlier presentations, starting with the first presentation where the history of such maritime security incidents per se was brought into focus. What we must specifically remember is for us to combat any maritime security threats, it has to be a combined effort. It cannot be an thing which we can do in isolation. So that is why if you see the C's there, that is where it's important for us to collaborate. The collaboration can come in terms of multiple agencies. It can come in terms of the ship's maritime administration. It can come from Indian or the foreign navies. It can come in terms of the privately contracted armed security personnel. It can come in terms of the international agencies like IMO, the Djibouti Code of Conduct, etc. So you to bring it into a more important perspective, the CGPCS, which was earlier there, now has been also remodified into a new format, which is called the Contact Group of Illicit Maritime Activities, which India is also a part of. Um, uh, the most important element in any such thing is first to try to focus on the root cause. The root cause in this aspect is why this is happening. We need to talk. So the Israel-Hamas conflict here is the root cause, and because of that, the collateral what is happening is we are the shipping which is trading in that region is getting affected. That is why it has to be a very focused effort by all people. The pirate, because of what had happened is the security agencies are now more focused on incidents which are happening in the Red Sea, in the Gulf of Aden, Arabian Sea region. Slowly, the Somalian piracy has started taking a little bit of prominence. There were multiple incidents. Navy intervened, and what is especially of note and a big commendation to the Navy was that it's the first time ever the Navy went and they took over one of the vessels which was captured by the Somalian pirates. So that's a big thing which has never happened before. So in summing up, I would like to thank the Institute of Engineers and all the other organizers for inviting us and to take up a topic which is very relevant to the region. We need to collaborate. We need to build the capacity. We need to build capacity internally within the shipping community, within the country where these conflicts are happening, and we need to connect. So yeah, if you will go through a circular, connection is very important. You'll find that in security nowadays, the information is not isolated and it is not kept secretive. We share this information. Why do we share? This information is shared because by sharing only people will come to know. And if people come to know, we can take response mechanisms. We can understand. Let's say there is a report of skiffs which are operating in particular region, which are not normally or fishing vessels which are found in region which normally is not an area where fishing is there. That information comes, Navy can intervene, find out what is the aspect. So one thing which we also requested to all stakeholders during in our current circular is that please report anything which is out of the ordinary, which you also said. So that is also something which I would request to this gathering. Thank you for this opportunity, and I can take the questions later. Thank you.
Captain Anish, thank you so much for your very explanatory presentation. And I, on behalf of the stakeholders and ship owners, would like to once again convey our thanks to the Directorate General of Shipping and Indian government. And as you are aware, we even thanked the Indian Navy recently for the assistance they are rendering to our ships which are plying at high seas, who are literally helpless in the current situation. As you also and David also explained, once upon a time we had best management practices when आपके wired lining on deck side and things like those could help us. Even citadel were made for the ship seafarers. But lately, the technology, even the pirates have become very modern and sophisticated. And they're using, as Mr. Amit rightly said, they're using now their drones and helicopters, etc. So challenges are mounting. At the same time, what David also said, ki, our trade is the mainly via the sea routes, because most of our goods are coming and being transported by the sea. So we all have very high challenge at stake in future. And I'm very happy again that Director General of Shipping has come out with lot many guidance, circulars and notices in the recent past. So I would like to thank you also and to the administration for the initiative taken by you. So with that, I think we have nothing more to add this. There are some question and answers which has come to me, which I can just briefly summarize all of them. The one question is again the same thing what I said. Okay, the old days are gone when seafarers could protect themselves and hide themselves also in citadel, etc. With the new technology and new means of like drones and this one, their options are very limited. And we do need help from the shore assistant like Navy or some escorts, etc. So I think we'll all have to work on that. So would any like to comment on that?
Uh,
Captain Anish or Joseph, can you say that seafarers asking for the increasing challenges and technology by the pirates who are utilizing it, we literally find ourselves helpless. So in those situations, what options we have?
So, first and foremost, even in best management practice, even when you're doing your security courses, whether it is the SSO or STSD, one thing what we say is seafarers are not military personnel, right? So the best action is not to react and try to ensure that the safety is ensured when such an incident happens, because these are now new types of threats which is unprecedented. And a big challenge comes is in piracy, the modus operandi was different. There were skiffs which were coming. There was sufficient time which a vessel could get to react to such measures. But now it's slightly different. The challenge is that this incident, a drone attack, can also happen hundreds of kilometers away from the coast. Such drones can also be launched from the ship. So the only way we can move forward is to follow. There are existing new practices which have evolved. There are OCIMF guidelines on loitering munitions. DG Shipping has issued certain advisories. We request that such advisories be followed. There are reporting mechanism established. Kindly report to the IFC-IOR of the Indian Navy. We will be monitoring you. You have seen in the past that Indian Navy has supported, whether it has been a drone attack, whether it's been a fire incident. I'll give you a very classic example of Marlin Luanda. In Marlin Luanda, we had an incident where, because of the drone attack, there was a fire on board. The naphtha caught fire, and the seafarers were very brave. They responded very well, which is actually something I need to also try and bring forward. All our seafarers in all the incidents have actually responded very well, very bravely, very resilient they have been, even though they have had their fear in the back of their mind at the time of such an incident. We have, because each and every incident it happens, and mostly it happens at night time. We have been sitting through, and our digicom, myself, we have my colleagues here, Captain Harinder and all. We all sit and we monitor and we give feedback. We get in touch with the company, with Navy, and we find that the seafarers have been always resilient. These seafarers, they fought the fire throughout the night. They were fatigued beyond exhaustion, and Navy came on board and they did something which is unprecedented. They could have asked it was a foreign flag vessel. They could have asked the seafarers to abandon the ship. They didn't do that. Navy went with their firefighting. They have a special demolition firefighting team, and they went and supported, and the fire got extinguished. So these are aspects which you need to take comfort from. Don't worry, we are there. We will support you. We will burn our midnight oil and try and see what has to be done. Kindly ensure that those the guidelines which are in place are properly followed. The reporting mechanisms are done. That is what we request from the seafarers.
Captain Joseph, I again would like to thank the industry at large about the help and assistance they have rendered. But there is another question which has come from somebody from MSc IRS related. He says in this particular case, it was basically a political terrorism attack. So again, it has nothing to do with the shipping and seafarers. And now our 17 seafarers are kept on board till some replacement reaches. So this is a very tricky situation, and as you rightly mentioned earlier also, our Ministry of External Affairs and even the PMO Secretariat has been working also, we're talking with Israeli that not to do all this. But again, purely from owners and shipping seafarers' point of view, the situation is very grim, particularly for the parents.
India and Iran has got very good relationship. There have been past instances also. There were these tankers which were under sanction and which were taken, or tankers which Iran had taken to their. But Iran never, nothing. The seafarers have been safe. They are able to maintain contact with their family, and they have always reached home. So we have, in this case also, already they gave specially considered and allowed the girl cadet to come back home. And I'm sure that all the other seafarers will come back. So this you need not consider it per se like a, piracy or other incident. Those who have gone through piracy, it's a much different stage, because there is torture, there is, they don't give proper food, they cannot contact home, they don't have any consular access. It's a very violent kind of a, crime which happens. That is why I would say request, do not consider it like a crime per se. There are some political things, and we have a good relationship. We have always seen that Iranian government has supported us, and they have allowed the seafarers to sign off. So that these seafarers will come back home. So that is what we are looking at, and Indian government is very earnestly working on it. So it will happen. So I would like to try and reassure the parents. Of course, I know parents, irrespective of the matter, even if it's this MSC IRIS case, or even if any vessel which is going, they'll always be concerned. We are there. We will try our best, and we will try and ensure that these seafarers come back safe. Touch wood, it's even though so many incidents have happened, there was only one particular incident where there was loss of life of 3 seafarers. Out of this 33 incidents which have happened, only one incident was there. That was also very unfortunate, and that was also very unfortunate because all the earlier incidents, the drone attacks have happened on tankers. This was on a bulk carrier, and unfortunately, the fire caught so fast that one armed security personnel and 2 seafarers, they succumbed. They could not survive, and the ship also sank. But they were all other people were rescued. So we would request all of you to give that consideration, and we also try and pray and hope that it continues like this, and hopefully we have a full resolution to this conflicts and crises which is happening within our region.
Captain Ennis, I again only have word of compliments to the administration and the Indian Navy and naval people for coming to the help of this. But as you rightly judged, the parents are of course concerned, because any time of this sort of keeping in custody, etc., does affect them mentally, if not physically as well. I have a last question here. What can be the best practice for avoiding any damage to the vessel in a war open out zone where a lot of ships are anchored? Is Mobin Ahmed.
So per se, ideally we shouldn't be anchoring at such an area. That is the best action, I think, which can be done. Identify such areas and it's better to drift out and away from that area. Currently, if you see within the Gulf of Aden and within the Red Sea, I don't think merchant shipping is anchoring or waiting around that region. They come and move away from it, and they make a movement at the time when it is required for them to make the ETA. So, there are conflicts happening because of the Russia-Ukraine situation, and now because of this Red Sea crisis. But we would suggest that, it would be better to pick up your anchor, move away as far as away from this conflict area, and come to the particular port at the time of, if you have if you have to discharge some cargo at that particular time and try and do that. Again, it is also for the owners to also consider whether to operate their vessels in such conflict zone. That is something the owner should take forward.
So I can just add a little bit to what Captain Joseph said. So of course, a lot of owners have decided as a policy not to take the ships, and they're going by Cape of Good Hope. But some of the owners are operating from there. But again, then they're taking the crew into confidence. Only willing crew are being taken through those zones, and of course, they're paying them extra allowances, etc. So, I mean, to the extent possible, they're trying to appease personal apprehensions, and only people who are willing, who are not willing, are being signed off, and replacements are being sent. So, I think that's the best as owners we can do, because you can't stop plying the ship, you can't stop transporting cargo from one place to another. So, commitments are there. But under circumstances, whatever best they can do, they are doing. And of course, government, and especially Indian government, is helping us in a big way to operate our ships despite this crisis. So yeah, so that's how.
David, again, a word of compliments to the Indian ship owners who are taking all these facts into consideration while sending their ships to one port to another. As Captain Anish rightly said, that we don't or avoid sending ships to the war zone areas. But otherwise, I think I will conclude this. There are not very vital questions now. So I will hand it over to Mr. Mehra, so you could please take over now. And thank you so much to all the speakers, yeah, for all your presentation, as well as very lovely question answer session. I mean, it's very informative, very educative, and I'm sure in the months ahead, when we are fighting against all piracy and terrorism attack, I mean, all these guidelines will come to handy, and particularly the new notices and the circulars which have been given by the directorate are very useful for the ship owners. And David, I'm sure at INSA you will let all the owners know about them, and I'm sure it must have already reached them. So thank you so much with that. And Mr. Mehra, take over, please.
Before that, if permitted, I would like to compliment to whatever Captain Anish has spoken about with respect to the measures which are being taken, and probably we can think of considering certain measures with respect to now. At least one thing is known, that helicopters, whether they will be used or not later, we don't know, but drones is definitely something which is a low cost item, can be used by individuals for such type of acts. So probably the anti-drone technology, which is already available, probably it can be considered as one of the measures in future, because as of now, in many countries, drone jammers are not legal. I pointed out in my presentation also. Probably, at IMO level, this matter can be discussed, and something can be brought in. May not be in immediate future, but then of course little later.
Right, so what very beautiful presentation today by David, Amit, and Captain Joseph. We have learned that the piracy which came out of livelihood is shifted now. The two important points are asymmetric operations and the political compulsions. Of course, political compulsions we may not be able to do present movements, seeing the world scenario. But like Amit said, asymmetric operation drones and alternate shipping routes, that we'll have to come up with some solution. Definitely, there has to be some crack team who will decide what is going to be. This scenario is not going to stop today here. We need to think in ahead for 10, 15 years. Thinking in view of this, Marine Engineering Division Board, our next webinar, we are scheduling on what are the aerospace technology we can leverage to use of maritime operation. I repeat again, aerospace technology, how best we can leverage for the maritime operation. I'm in touch with one of the former director from ISRO, and we are planning our next webinar on this subject. This is for the benefit of our audience. Thank you, sir. Wonderful presentation by the faculty. Thank you very much indeed.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Rai, sir. Thank you, Bhandarkar, sir. Thank you, all the panelists. Now we're coming to the fag end of the webinar, and I will request Engineer Milind Patil to give us a vote of thanks. Mr. Milind Patil, he is the Honorary Secretary, Institution of Engineers, India, Maharashtra State Center, and he is also the Director, Maharashtra State Financial Corporation Mumbai. Milind, sir.
This was excellent webinar, marine webinar on sea piracy and terrorism, technology for maritime security and safe shipping lanes. I like to add one thing to Mr. Amit Bhatnagar, sir. I think for safe shipping and security, we must use anti-drone technology with latest artificial intelligence technology, and that will be the future of maritime security. That is what I feel. I like to thank Honorable Commander Dr. Bhaskar Bhandarkar sir, Vice President IMEI and former Chairman MRDB, Ministry of Engineers India. Then I like to thank Engineer Surendra Rai sir, former Chairman IMEI Mumbai branch. I like to thank Engineer David Birwadkar, Head the Great Eastern Institute of Maritime Studies. I like to thank Mr. Amit Bhatnagar sir, Vice President and Head I-Class Academy. I like to thank Captain Anish Joseph sir, Senior DDG Shipping, Technology and Maritime Shipping. I like to thank Engineer Sanju Mehra, President ANA. And I like to thank all the participants in this maritime webinar. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your vote of thanks. And Commander Saab, if you give us permission, we can
Yes, sir. We can call up the webinar.
follow. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ayan. We
Thank you,
can
sir.
finish.
Thank you. Bye.
Right.
Thank you, Joseph, Captain Joseph. Wonderful presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll end the webinar right now. With your
Thank you.
permission.
Yes, sir. David and Amit ji. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. Mehra ji and Patil sir.
No, thank you, Bhandarkar sir.
Thank you, sir.